Military drills in South Korea sparked warnings of retaliation from North Korea. This just days before talks with the North about their nuclear weapons program. South Korea's drills only lasted a few hours, but more are scheduled to begin this week, next time a joint with American forces. And Christian Whiten is a former deputy special envoy for North Korean human rights under President Bush. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Patty Ann.
So the South Korean drills were 2 hours of live fire drills near the border with North Korea. The North did threaten action. Afterward, they didn't do anything. But again, more drills coming up in concert with the U.S. Do you expect North Korea to act, and what form might that take?
I wouldn't expect any concrete action. You never know with North Korea. It's very unpredictable to an extent. But on the other hand, whenever the U.S. has military exercises near North Korea, and especially if we drill with our allies, the South Koreans, you can almost always expect very bellicose language out of the North Koreans. So this really isn't that expected. Also, if you just look at where things are with the cycle of negotiations, which is actually fairly predictable, it sort of is another indication that there's not going to be a major blow-up in North Korea like what happened in 2010, frankly.
Yeah, speaking of those negotiations, of course, there are talks in Beijing between North Korea and the U.S. coming up this Thursday. It's their third meeting since last July, but that was before Kim Jong-il died. Washington has a couple of goals. They want to persuade North Korea to suspend operations at its uranium enrichment plant. Also, they want North Korea to return to those six-nation talks. What do you expect?
I would expect nothing to come out of this, Patty Ann. You know, we've done this twice before with two presidents, President Clinton and President George W. Bush, and we're about to be fooled a third time. Basically, this is the same regime, even though they've had a change in leaders from the older Kim Jong-il to Kim Jong-un. It's the exact same regime. You know, very predictable cycle. They misbehave. They scare us and our allies to the negotiating table. They'll behave a little bit better, although still throw out some bellicose language, and then extract a bunch of goodies. They will sell the same thing over and over again, but never deliver the goods. Frankly, our key negotiator, Glenn Davies, ought to know this. He was the lieutenant of our previous negotiator when the North Koreans sold us their nuclear arsenal in 2007, but then never delivered the goods. So it's just pathetic, I think, that we're once again, the Obama administration is falling into this trap again.
Yeah, Glenn Davies is the one who would be involved in the negotiations this week. The U.S. has offered aid, and it says it would suspend some of its sanctions if North Korea stops enriching its uranium. Have these sanctions, carrots and sticks, etc., had any effect?
No, unfortunately, again, this is the standard operating procedure for restarting talks with North Korea now. It was part of the mid-90s effort in the Clinton administration, certainly part of the six-party talks, and in the end with those led by Condi Rice, where you give food aid to North Korea, which sounds great. Who can be opposed to feeding starving North Koreans, even if their government is our adversary? But in fact, all of that food aid, we learned in talking to refugees, gets diverted to the military, to the regime elite, or is sold on the black market. We talked to refugees who said they never saw any of this assistance. You know, the U.S. Agency for International Development always thinks it has a new mechanism of getting aid to people in need, but in fact, it's just plain out appeasement to get North Korea back to the negotiating table. Again, I think a very unfortunate repeat of what's been done in the previous two administrations.
All right, Christian Whiten, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Patty Ann.